Money line, Buffalo is minus 140 and Kansas City plus 118. The over-under on this particular game is 54, with FPI saying that the Chiefs had a 59.9% chance of winning. The Bills, fourth consecutive season starting at 4-1, longest streak winning at least 4 of the first 5 games since 1990 and through 93. Went to the Super Bowl each of those seasons. But here's what I would say. Josh Allen in Buffalo, 1-3 in his career versus the Chiefs, including the playoffs. His second most losing against any team other than the New England Patriots, of course. His only win versus Kansas City was last season in Week 5. Now flip to the Chiefs side of things. The Chiefs at home. You talk about home field advantage. Get this, guys. The Chiefs have won 8 straight regular season games at home. I just mentioned it. The last time they lost was against the Bills in Week 5. Now you want to talk about the way that they play and the style in which they play. Travis Kelce is the leader on this team with 6 touchdowns in the last 3 games, 4 versus the Raiders, as we saw last week, which is already rates as his most in any 4-game span of his career. He scored a touchdown in 4 straight against the Bills, 6 total in those games against the Bills.
Harry, which quarterback has the edge here, do you think?
I'm going to go with Josh Allen because he has the better team and the better skill position players around him.
He's facing the lesser defense, too.
Yeah, the funny thing about this is that the 4 times these teams have played the last 2 years, Stephon Diggs, as much as man covers that Steve Spagnuolo likes to play, has not had over 77 yards in that game. And that's ironic. It's just crazy when I looked it up. The flip side of it, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, I know the Buffalo Bills are going to say, you know what? We're going to make him methodically work this football down the football field to try to score. Be patient. And if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, I'm switching some things up defensively too. I'm making Josh Allen take checkdowns. I'm not giving him that home run play and allowing him to beat me with big plays like that.
Yeah, I got to say something. Patrick Mahomes is the underdog at home for the first time in his career. He's in the middle of his 5th season starting, has never been a home dog. And you know, like the way Mike Trout came into baseball, he was the best player ever at his age, basically, or certainly one of the 2 or 3. And then every year after that, if you looked at his age, where he ranked in history, he had one of the best seasons ever for a player that age. And if once you get to a certain age, you say, well, that's the best player ever, right? Patrick Mahomes has the kind of success that early in his career that only Tom Brady's had, right? But Tom Brady wasn't doing what Mahomes was doing early, right? Okay. The only guy who was kind of doing what Mahomes was doing early was, say, maybe someone like Dan Marino, where you're like, damn, he starts out like that. But Marino didn't have Mahomes' level of success.
Yep.
So far in his career, at this point in his career, he's the greatest player of all time. I'm not saying he's already the GOAT. I'm saying at this stage in his career, he has been better and greater than anyone else who's gotten to this stage of their career so far. And it's underscored by the fact that he's a home dog for the first time. And we don't even know if he's going to actually be a dog just right now for the first. That's 41 home games without ever being the underdog.
Well, I would say this, Max. You look at that Kansas City Chiefs team, and I played against that team my last few years when I was in Tennessee, and that's when Alex Smith was the quarterback. Alex Smith leaves that team, and then Patrick Mahomes takes over. They go to the AFC Championship game. And if it wasn't for somebody jumping off sides, they go to a Super Bowl. The following year, what do? Is that the year I think Patrick Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns?
He called his own, the 50 and 50 touchdowns his first year
then
MVP.
He won the Super Bowl the next year.
The next year was when he calls his own, a 13-step drop and throws it all the way down the field to Tyreek Hill to win the Super Bowl, right? I mean, it's bananas what he's doing. So, like, when Key points out, like, Josh Allen has to check a lot of boxes before he's actually comparable to Mahomes. Win an MVP, win a Super Bowl MVP, beat Mahomes.
Yep.
Well, he beat him in the regular season once so far.
When
he could do it again this weekend.
Regular season. I mean, playoffs, that's when it counts. That's the dark cloud that's hanging over Josh Allen right now because AFC Championship game 2 years ago, Patrick Mahomes got the best of them.
Yep.
Division round last year, Patrick Mahomes got the last laugh. Even though Josh Allen put up a stellar performance, that's the dark cloud right now.
Do you remember the cameras when they went to Josh Allen and they were all feeling good on the Buffalo sideline with 13 seconds left and all?
Are ahead of the pack, which is the Bills and the Chiefs. But then you got the Ravens that's sitting there. I'm not going to discount the Chargers because I think it's the Chargers coach. And it all factors in. And Staley's going to continue to get heat, especially from me, as he continues to make some decisions that are head-scratching. And then I also count in the Browns and the Bengals in there. So that's like a 5 to 6 team race that I believe in the end you're going to see these 5 to 6 teams hovering around.
So, Harry, I get Ravens. By the way, I say the answer is no also because I just had a feeling all offseason about Lamar this year.
Yep.
Based on how he played last year with what was around him, the health of the team, his own health, now his contract status, everything, and the trajectory of his career, I still am taking the Ravens to win the Super Bowl this year. If you make me pick one team, I'll take them. So there's one. The Bengals were in the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
We're in the Super Bowl. Last year came one play away from winning it. And the Chargers, they have Justin Herbert. With the left tackle out, that's a lot, but maybe they could figure things out. But it's interesting. Key also brings up the Browns. And if Brissett can keep them treading water, Deshaun Watson, whatever, the implications of his coming back are outside of the scope of the gridiron, the fact is he's going to come back.
Yeah.
And if their record puts it within striking distance, you now add an elite quarterback to the Browns. Are those the teams you think? Or are there any ones that we're missing? Do you agree with those teams?
No, I agree with all those teams, and ironically, all those teams have quarterbacks, right? You talk about the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm going to talk about some of their deficiencies and things that could possibly hold them back. You talk about their defense. Last time we seen them, they were actually good against the Cincinnati Bengals, but you gotta think about that Dolphins game, that Bills game, how they had those letdowns in the second half, offensively and defensively. When you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals early in the year, what plagued them? The offensive line, giving up 13 sacks in 2 games. Now, they've been decent of late, but can that group play in unison and not do what they did last year? They gave up 9 sacks in the playoff game. Granted, they won it. I don't think they can have that makeup this year and still have the success that they had last year. So they have to continue to get better. Then you look at the Chargers. The thing that's plaguing the Chargers is health. You're talking about Rashawn Slater not being there. Joey Bosa, he's out until he can return. Keenan Allen, can he remain healthy? I actually like the Chargers because on paper, the Chargers are so damn good. They just have to go out there and do it, put it on the field. And Brandon Staley is actually a guy, and it happened last year, that can hold this team back. And I'm hoping that's not the case this year, though, Max. And I forgot the Browns. The Browns just can't lose games they're supposed to win. You're playing the New England Patriots this weekend, and like he say, don't let Dr. Z, get the best of you, because if you lose a game like this, I'm gonna be squinting my eyes a little bit.
Patriots just blanked the Patriots just blanked. What's impressive to me is the Belichick defense just blanked a team whose offense had looked good until then. Blanked them. Like it's not that they won. They won by a wide margin. They didn't give up a single point.
The run game has been very efficient for New England like it was last year. That's one of the reasons they're having success, plus that defense.
So, Key,
I want y'all to use that. I want y'all to use that recipe now moving forward. You run the football.
Yep.
You play defense. And you've got a Dr. Z that can just do the things that you need him to do.
Complementary football. Complementary football. The defense and the run game go together. A quarterback takes care of the ball. It all goes together, right?
But the reason why it's so important to have a quarterback, though, is because you look at a Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen. You got to be able to go toe-to-toe. If all the wheels fall off, you have to be able to go toe-to-toe with those two guys. If you don't have a quarterback to do that, you don't stand a chance.
Have we seen Harry, and correct me, I could be totally wrong because I've watched a lot of football for a long time. Mm-hmm. Have we seen Josh Allen or even Patrick Mahomes, for that matter, dominate a top defense? I'm not talking about a defense that we think is good and got some, but have we seen them? I'm talking about one of those Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, L.A. Ram, top-notch defenses. Just takes them to the woodshed.
Well, the Bills last year was a
top defense. It hasn't been any?
Not like that. Huh? Not like the Tampa defense or the Baltimore defense from back in the day.
How many teams are constructed like that, though, nowadays?
No, right, I'm asking a legit question.
But the Bills last year,
the Bills last year was the top defense.
They had all 3 levels. They had the secondary. They had the front 7. The Bills are a good example, and Patrick Mahomes cut him up.
Still found a way.
Patrick Mahomes cut. So the Bills' defense was